The rules of how to launch a game on Kickstarter have completely changed this year, and I would know. You see, I've been launching products on Kickstarter for the past 10 years and worked with over 1,000 creators. Creators like Zoe and Casey, who raised over 781,000, Dusty and Amy, who raised over $1 million, or Laya and Sonke, who raised over 1.5 million. And I want to share 7 unconventional game tips that have been helping creators like these raise millions on Kickstarter. And it's not the obvious stuff that everyone's talking about. It's stuff I don't think people have heard before. Well, enough teasing, let's dive into the first tip: find your Mary. Dusty and Amy are the creators of Botany, a board game that raised over $1 million on Kickstarter. But before they launched a $1 million campaign, they were wedding photographers. This was their first launch ever, and they were doing it part-time. As you could imagine, they had no idea what they were doing, especially when it came to marketing their game. There was just so much to figure out, like the landing page they build, the ads they'd run, the Kickstarter campaign video they create, just to name a few. But everything got a whole lot easier after they did one often overlooked thing. They found their Mary. Now, who is this Mary and how did she help them raise so much money? Well, Mary is the name that Dusty and Amy gave to their superfan. This was a fictional character that represented the type of person who would love their game. By the way, this is a concept popularized by my friend Ori Kagan, so go check out his channel right after this. But back to Dusty and Amy. They got really into imagining who Mary was. For example, they said Mary was in her early 30s, dreamt of having a garden, loved British dramas, and had backed a project or 2 on Kickstarter. When it came to the games she liked, she had some particular needs. For one, the game had to be pretty, it had to be social, and it had to be something she could play over and over again. She was tired of games being too confusing, complicated, and hard to teach her friends. So as Mary became more clear to Dusty and Amy, so did everything else. When they had a question about anything, like, what image should we use for our ad? They'd just ask, what would Mary click on? Well, they knew she loved pretty things and the box design was beautiful, so they decided to make the ad a simple photo of the box. Now the question you have to ask yourself is, who's your superfan, your Mary? Finding her or him will make every part of the process of launching your game way easier. And speaking of making things easier, let's go to tip number 2, do the math. Come here really quick. I'm going to tell you a simple rule that if you follow will infinitely increase your chance of success. Ready? Don't lose money. And how do you not lose money? You do the math, meaning you truly understand every dollar in and every dollar out when it comes to launching your game. This is more than having a nice spreadsheet, even though I love spreadsheets. It's really a mindset thing. You want to get in the habit of making decisions only after you understand how much it will cost you and how you plan to make money from it, either directly or indirectly. For example, let's say you want to go to a gaming convention to get yourself out there and connect with the community. Well, what's the cost of the flight, the ticket, the hotel, the food you'll eat, the drinks you'll drink? And after all those are totaled up, how much do you think you'll make from the event? 1,000, a few hundred, or maybe even negative dollars? Many will go through an exercise like this and realize they either shouldn't do that thing or they need to come up with a better plan to get a positive return on their investment. Now, Dusty and Amy did the math and it paid off big time for them. They knew exactly how much it was going to cost to produce one game before they even launched it. They also knew their minimum order quantity, also known as MOQ, which was the minimum amount of units they had to purchase from their manufacturer. Knowing the unit price and their MOQ told them the minimum they needed to raise on Kickstarter to break even. For Dusty and Amy, that number was around 38,000. And because they did the math and they knew their break-even number, they could make better decisions as to where to spend their money so they get the best return on their investment. Now, speaking of making investments, let's talk about making your Mona Lisa, and I promise they're related. In 2022, Laya and Sonke went to Spiel, the biggest board game event in the world, which takes place in Essen, Germany. They were there representing their recently formed publishing company called Wonderboat Games. Now, another newbie in the space was also there, a game designer named Carl Robinson, and he was looking for a publisher for his game called Kelp. And he pitched his game to Laya and Sonke, and they loved it. But there was a major thing missing. The game design was extremely good, but the graphic design just wasn't quite there yet. So they hired a professional illustrator, Weberson Santiago, to help, and what he made was a work of art. It was their Mona Lisa. This was something that people couldn't stop themselves from looking at and appreciating. Now, was hiring Weberson the cheapest option? No, but your game art is an investment. It's something that will command the attention of your superfan, something that, when done right, will truly stand the test of time. So don't skimp when it comes to your art. Instead, make something special and make your Mona Lisa. Hey, real quick, if you want to go even deeper into everything I'm talking about, you should check out my book, Crowdfunded. It's actually the best-selling book on crowdfunding in the world with 4.7 out of 5 stars from 253 reviews. And I published a new edition in August of 2023 where the CEO of Kickstarter and Indiegogo endorsed it. Anyways, you can pick it up on Kindle, print, or audiobook that I record myself. The link to check it out is in the corner of this video or in the description below. Anyways, back to tip number 4, get $1, give $10. All right, Mark, so you're telling me that you want to get $1 and then you're going to give $10. That sounds like a pretty bad deal, right? Well, let me explain. The key to a successful launch is a successful pre-launch. More specifically, you need to build a community before you launch your game. Now, the old way of building community was simply to ask for someone's email address. The problem with only asking for an email is that you don't really know how committed they are to actually backing your game. I mean, it's really easy for someone to say, yeah, I'll totally back your game when you launch. But when it comes time for them to pull out their credit card and follow through with their purchase, they're nowhere to be seen. For example, before Laia and Sonke launched their $1.5 million Kickstarter campaign with Kelp, they launched Hunters of the Lost Creatures. They collected 2,000 emails before they launched, which sounds great, but when they sent them an email on launch day, crickets. Only a small fraction of the email list actually bought, meaning they actually lost money building that email list. Now for their second campaign, they did things a little differently. They used our reservation funnel strategy here at LaunchBoom, and it works something like this. After someone gives their email address, we ask for $1, and in return, we give $10 of value, like a heavily discounted add-on. Now, let me be clear, it doesn't have to be exactly $10 of value, by the way, it just makes this tip a little bit more memorable. But the point is this, you want to give them a lot more value than the $1 they are paying. For example, Laia offered a heavily discounted mini expansion called New Pursuits for a $1 reservation in the pre-launch. Now, this expansion was also available once she launched, but for $7. So why is the $1 better than an email? Well, we found that those that put down $1 during the pre-launch are 30 times more likely to buy on average than someone that only gives their email address. This is incredibly important for a creator because it allows you to allocate your marketing spend to people that are actually serious about buying your game, which in Laia and Sonke's case meant they were able to actually make money from their marketing efforts, and backers were able to get a nice discount on an item, which I would call a win-win. This is all great and all, but how did Laia and Sonke get people to sign up for their email list? Well, they understood the meta. Now, which meta am I talking about? Like board game meta or Kickstarter meta? No, I'm talking about the company meta. You know, the one that changed their names so they could better align themselves with our virtual reality future. But we're not talking about the Ready Player One world that will hopefully never come. No, we're talking about meta ads. There is no better way to build community than with meta ads, period. Now, even if you don't personally use Facebook or Instagram, a lot of other people do, like the people that will buy your game. Now, understanding meta ads isn't all that difficult. Here, let me give you a crash course. First step, you gotta target the right audience. Because you already found your Mary, this will be so much easier. For example, Botany targeted people that were interested in home gardening with one of their audiences, and it ended up doing super well. Next, you gotta make a good ad. Again, because you know your superfan, this is way easier. For example, Botany's best ad featured an image of their beautiful box design because they knew Mary loved pretty artwork. With the ad copy, they made sure to highlight stuff that Mary actually cared about, like the art, the social component, the ease of learning, and the high quality materials. 100% of the people that signed up for Botany's pre-launch email list came from meta ads. So whether you're a fan of the Zuck or not, you got to understand the meta to have a successful game launch. Well, there is another strategy that works pretty well too that doesn't involve ads. Before raising $781,000 on Kickstarter for their first game, Bear Mountain Camping Adventure, Casey and Zoe were just a husband and wife duo with their own wedding photography business. They followed all the tips I've shown you so far, and they clearly worked. But there was one other strategy they came up with that worked really well too, and it didn't cost them any money. What was that strategy? They shared their real story. Well, Zoe did. You see, Zoe had this idea to use TikTok to build up a bigger community before they launched. So she created an account and started sharing their story, and it looked something like this.
Hey guys, I'm Zoe, and I created this account to hopefully get some traction going for my husband Casey's board game that he's been working really hard on over the last 2 years.
This post was real and people loved it, bringing in over 233,000 views and hundreds of extremely supportive comments. More importantly, people were signing up for their email list and buying the $1 reservation. And before they launched on Kickstarter, they had a huge amount of pent-up demand. So all that was left for them to do was... On the first day, Bear Mountain raised $192,000, Kelp raised $142,000, and Botany raised $105,000. How? Well, they broke the dam. You see, because they followed the other 6 tips you just learned, they had thousands of people who couldn't wait to back their projects. For example, Bear Mountain had nearly 7,000 people on their email list, and of those 7,000 people, 1,616 people had put down a $1 reservation, meaning they were way more likely to back their project. And when Casey and Zoe hit that launch button and sent one email to their list, boom, a flood of backers came into their campaign, skyrocketing their funding to $192,000 and getting their campaign to the top of Kickstarter's rankings. Now at the top of Kickstarter's rankings, they got in front of tens of thousands of eyeballs looking for the next best game to back, which brought in way more sales to their campaign. And when I say more, I mean a lot more. The total funding directly from Kickstarter's community was $313,000. That's 39% of all their funding. And this was all possible because they broke the dam, shot up in the rankings, and got free traffic from Kickstarter. All right, so you just learned the 7 tips that are powering the biggest Kickstarter game launches. And most of the examples like Botany and Bear Mountain were first-time creators working on their launch part-time. That means anyone can use these tips to bring their game to life. I hope that now that you know these tips yourself, you'll bring your game to life too. Also, if you're serious about launching your game and you want some help, my team and I would love to chat. We have a program called Launch Boom Games with hundreds of other games creators in it, and we would love for you to be a part of it. So if you're interested, just click on the link in this video or in the description below, fill out a few questions, and I'll get you connected to the right expert on my team. Oh, and one last very important point. Everything I taught you doesn't matter that much if you don't have a game yet, right? Well, lucky for you, we have an in-depth guide on how to make a board game with no experience. You can watch it right here. That's right, just click on it and we'll see you on over there.